Hey everyone, it is me, Liberty Whispers, and today, as outlined in our video talking about the importance, power and reward of vulnerability, which, by the way, if you haven't seen, you can check out over here, or if you want to go more traditional, link in the description box. But as outlined in that previous video, today we're going to be doing some big talk questions, which, to just kind of give you a very quick short recap, it's a little card game designed to go past the surface level of small talk chit chat. So a really good icebreaker for people you've maybe just met, or just a really good way to get to know people that you do already know. Or, in this case, a good way to embrace vulnerability and to answer bigger questions you may not have ever considered in a very earnest fashion, which is what we're going to be doing here on this video. So 20 questions pulled from the Big Talk card box. I'm going to answer as openly, as honestly as possible. I'm going to embrace vulnerability, and I encourage you guys to do the same. If there are questions in here that you want to answer, if you feel like opening yourself up to vulnerability a little bit more, maybe this is a good exercise for you to try, then please do so. Really, I mean that, do answer these questions if you can. You can answer them in a variety of ways. You could write them down, so it's only you that sees them, if that's the level you're comfortable with at the minute. You could, if you want to take it a little step further and embrace your vulnerability and put them out there, you can send them to me as a DM over at Twitter, @LibWhispers. Again, link in the description box if you want to do that. Then you want to pick questions and send me your replies, then I will always be willing to hear them. I'm always willing to hear whatever you guys have to say, whether it is publicly or privately. I always want to sort of reinforce that this is designed to be a very safe and welcoming place. Liberty Whispers is that. That's, if nothing else, I want it to be somewhere where you guys feel safe and comfortable to come, relax, talk, be yourself, or just sort of find something that you maybe need, or just whatever. But if that's what you want to do, if you want to answer any of these questions privately, straight to me, then you can do that. You can send me DMs over at Twitter, as I said, @LibWhispers. Or if you want to take it one step further and embrace vulnerability even more, you can answer any of the questions you want openly in the public forum that is the comments section below. However you want to do it, if you want to do it. That's the thing, if. There is absolutely zero pressure for you to answer any of these questions, but I always like to get to know you guys a bit better. And coming back this time around and using Twitter and such has helped me do that. It's a great tool for that, and this is a great tool, I think, for not only you to get to know me a little bit better, but for me to get to know you a little bit better. I was recently asked if I thought about doing a Draw Your Life video, which I may have a stab at some point, but the drawings will be terrible. It will be kind of maybe like a flick book video or stop motion with stick men. And really sort of primitive drawings, because I can doodle, but I'm not very good at drawing properly. So yeah, maybe that will be happening at some point, but in the meantime, in the interim, I guess this is kind of a good sort of substitute of sorts. But yeah, hopefully you guys get to know me a little bit better, and hopefully I get to know you guys a little bit better. But yeah, I wanted to do this because I really like this game. I say it's a game. It's not really a game. There's no winners, losers, or points to be scored. It's just a really good thing to have. I personally am terrible at small talk. I can do it in a professional setting. At work, I can small talk like a champion. But in social settings, it just doesn't interest me. I would much rather know what the weirdest movie you've ever seen is, or you tell me about like the most disastrous date you've ever been on, or the feeling of intense joy that you got over something very personal, or a favourite birthday. any of these things, then like how the weather's been, what you do for a living, or where you went to university, these are all sort of part of who you are, and it's at the very forefront of most conversations. But me, I always relish digging deeper, getting to know the inner workings of someone rather than just the surface fundamentals, which, you know, have their importance and their place. But for me, I've always sort of accelerated with big talk stuff. I've always just found that more interesting. Anyway, let's get into it. 20 questions. Let's start with question number 1. What is your greatest strength? Again, it's a good question. As a sort of general rule, I am not that comfortable with talking about my strengths and my abilities. I mean, given the circumstance, if it's in a job interview, then yes, I can do that. But in general, I'm not somebody that is very sort of boastful or braggy or really that self-acknowledging out loud verbally, and I probably should be a little bit more. Actually, no, I definitely should be a little bit more, but yeah, greatest strength, I would probably say compassion. Yeah, definitely. I do have a number of strengths. I think I just don't, as I say, actively openly talk about them that much, but compassion is probably definitely my greatest strength. A little bit of backstory and insight into me and my upbringing. I was raised by my mum and my grandmother, so raised by two very strong-willed and independent women from different generations. So I was kind of instilled with a sense of determination and stubbornness, amongst other things, but also a great sense of empathy and understanding and compassion. You know, the ability to care, to be willing to care, to be open to listen to people, to actually listen to what they're saying and not just wait for your turn to speak. Although sometimes I am guilty, and it's something I'm trying to sort of actively stop, is filling in people's sentences when they're struggling to kind of find the words themselves. Maybe it's from a place of helping, I don't know, but yeah, it's something I've noticed recently is that I do it a little bit too often. But as a whole, I tend to think I'm pretty good at listening and just letting people talk and just having a very open ear and an open heart to what they're saying. So yeah, compassion, I think, is definitely my greatest strength. It is something that I think we need a little bit more of, just in general, given how sort of divisive and splintered the world is, you know. Just because somebody doesn't see eye to eye with you in terms of your political stance or your particular viewpoint doesn't mean we can't all sort of coexist on some level or be compassionate to people. But yeah, I would say compassion is definitely my greatest strength, and I think it kind of plays into other strengths as well. I think it's given me a real sort of solid basis for creativity, particularly with writing characters. I think it's kind of given me a sort of advantage almost in terms of kind of getting into the root of characters and sort of personal, humane problems they may have. So yeah, compassion. I'm a sensitive boy, and I'm proud. Alright, question number 2. Okay. Oh, that's a good one. Very deep, but it's a good question. What are you thankful for this very moment? Man, where to start? I'm thankful for so much, so very, very, very much, but to give one singular answer, and maybe it's a little bit broad, but at the same time, maybe it's not, and it's actually just very personally defined. I'm thankful for being here, in this room, talking to you guys. I'm thankful for being here in this moment, breathing, being able to feel the cold air, to be able to hear the sort of rumbling of a potential thunderstorm outside, of having the things I have, the opportunities that I have, the people that are in my life, and for just being here, just being alive. That is what I am most very, very thankful for at this very moment. And that comes with a great deal of perspective, in the spirit of being very open and honest with my answers, and to kind of give some context to that answer. About 7 years ago, I was in a very, very low place. For a long time, I described it as being comfortable with my discomfort, but the truth is it ran much deeper than that. I wasn't quite suicidal, but I didn't care if I lived or I died anymore. I just completely given up. I checked out. I was just not fussed whatsoever. I felt like I had nothing to live for, but it didn't stop me from going on in just this really checked out fashion. And I was just completely numb to so much. I just didn't care. Didn't care if I was alive or if I was dead, and that's the very sort of bleak, honest truth about it. So, fast forward 7 years later, and weirdly enough, recently, after having a bit of a rough day, bit of a tough week actually, but sort of accumulating very much so on one particular afternoon, I took my lunch break from work, and then I sat outside at a coffee shop nearby, at the tables outside, and I just took a moment to really think and sort of reflect and look back at just times past, and look back to 7 years ago, and sort of realise that, things may be a little bit turbulent this afternoon. I might be stressed, my anxiety might be flaring up, I might not be feeling great this week, but, in comparison, 6-7 years ago, I didn't care if I was alive or dead, but now I do. Now I feel like I have not only things in my present to cherish and to love and appreciate, but I have potential in my future. There's so much that I'm striving towards, whereas it just seemed like a dead end 6-7 years ago. So yeah, perspective is a hell of a thing, and as broad of an answer as that may be, the thing that I am thankful for in this very moment is being alive, being here. Okay, question number 3. Just kind of shuffle these as best I can without taking them all out. Okay, question number 3. What was your childhood dream? Has it changed? So, as a child, I never really had a childhood dream. I had a very vivid imagination, and it was more prone towards creating sort of fantasy landscapes with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys and wrestling figures and all sorts of other toys, Ghostbuster figures as well. Shout out to old vintage Ghostbuster figures. But in terms of actual childhood dreams of the future, of who I wanted to be, I didn't really have any. I was one of those kids that when you asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I don't know. Which kind of explains a lot. It really does explain a big part of the trajectory that would follow from childhood. I had no idea. What's funny though is I do have an adult dream, and that is to be a published author. Obviously I would like to be successful, but that is, not the alpha and omega of my adulthood dream. The dream is just to write something from scratch, something personal, something real, something that I feel proud of, that is put out there for other people, you know, to read and hopefully enjoy and maybe take something from. So yeah, that is the adult dream. Didn't have a childhood dream, but I do have an adult dream. And what's funny is I've never actually said that out loud to anyone. So you guys are the first people to really hear me say that. Those words, my dream is to be a published author. And weirdly enough, it's actually feeling very freeing to say that out loud. Not that there was anything to be ashamed of or guilty about or what have you, but it goes back to the idea of vulnerability. And I think because it is such a sort of hit and miss universe in terms of getting published, and because so many people write and so many people share that dream, it kind of feels like you are a tiny minnow in a vast ocean. And so to kind of verbalize that, I guess, is kind of a risk, because, you know, some people are very understanding, some people think that's very cool, some people also share that same dream, but there are also, you know, dream killers out there who will be like, oh, what are you doing that for? It's a waste of time, you never get published. Do you know how many people write books? That kind of thing. So yeah, that kind of ties into the idea of the risk-reward factor that I talked about when with vulnerability. But no, it feels good. It feels good to actually say that out loud and acknowledge it to other people other than myself. So yeah, no childhood dream, other than probably wanting to be Spider-Man. Yeah, actually at one point as a kid I do remember wanting to be Spider-Man or a Jedi. So those have changed because, you know, at some point in life I learned that's not possible. Or is it? Okay, question number 4. Do you want your children, if you have any, which I don't, to be like you? So yeah, as I said, I don't currently have children. It is something me and my wife are talking about. It's something that we're looking at very seriously, and we are approaching it very seriously, very gingerly, because it's a big decision. But I don't have children at the minute. If I do I want them to be like me? No, is the sort of real answer to that. I would like them to have certain characteristics, such as compassion, such as understanding, as you know, I'd like them to have the ability to grow that I have discovered in later life. I'd like them to have certain sort of traits, elements of me, but to be like me? No, I don't want a smaller version of me. I don't want a clone of me. I don't want to be replicating myself in the form of another person. If I have children, I want them to be them, whoever they are, whatever they are. You know, ideally I'd like them to have a good taste in music, but that's not a given. If they don't, that's just something I have to live with, I guess. Having experienced being a tween and an early teenager, I know for a fact that if I have children at some point, they're going to have terrible taste in music, and maybe that will continue for the rest of their lives. If it does, then that's them. You know, I may occasionally slip them a David Bowie LP and be like, yeah, you might want to give this a try, with just some sheer blind optimism. But no, I don't want them to be like me. I don't want to model anybody based on me. As I say, I would like them to have certain characteristics and strengths and traits that I feel proud of, that I acknowledge, and that I like about myself. I'd like them to have that. But if I have children, I want them to be themselves. I want them to grow and develop. I want to give them tools and, you know, the things they need to grow and develop, but I want them to find out who they are and grow into that person. I don't want to mold them to be, Liberty Whispers Junior. I don't want that for them. I don't think anybody else does either. So no. I think that pretty much answers that question. I think that's a fair answer. Okay. Question number 5. Now, this is a good one actually. If you've been a little bit on the fence about answering any of these questions, this is maybe a good entry point for you. It's a bit of a softball, but it's also pretty good in terms of an icebreaker. So if you're just wanting to get to know somebody for the first time in a pretty decent way, this is a good one. Describe a perfect day. Oh, okay, so perfect day would probably start with what we refer to in the house as a Saturday morning, which is basically a Saturday morning but with the cat. So, because weekends are the only time really that my wife isn't getting up at a certain point for work and I'm not getting up at a certain point for work, that's the Saturday and Sunday really, but mainly Saturday is the day that we kind of get to have sort of a lie-in in the morning, a bit of a lazy lie-in, and usually we are joined by the cat, hence Saturday mornings, and they're awesome. They are just sincerely a wonderful way to start the day, because you're not rushing, you're not making sure that you have to get somewhere urgently. You are just taking your time and just being warm and snuggly, and it's a fantastic way to start any day. So a perfect day would have to start with Saturday morning, and then after that we would get up and go for something to eat, probably some pancakes and coffee, obviously, and enjoy the morning together. And then at that point, for it to be a perfect day, and for me to be perfectly honest, I would need some time to myself. So I would probably go catch a movie around about lunchtime, because that is something I still love doing, something that still sort of grounds me, gives me a sense of comfort, is going to watch a movie by myself. It's something which has always given me comfort in good times and bad. It's been like a constant source of joy. So yeah, I would go check out a movie by myself, and then after that I would meet up again with my wife, probably with my closest friends. If it's completely fictional and fantasy, that would be possible, and we would hang out, maybe have some dinner at someone's house, some drinks, and then maybe go out, see a concert, go to a live gig, or head out somewhere fun, like an escape room or like a fun fair, something in which, we can kind of talk and just sort of be silly and just sort of hang out and be social and what have you. So yeah, I would do that, and then we'd do the gig, and then after the gig we'd probably find like a 24-hour cafe or diner. One of my favourite things in life, other than like roller discos and like Swedish cider and a bunch of other stuff, just to give you like a little snippet into me, I am a big fan of both of those things, not necessarily together, although they do kind of work together. So maybe actually, yeah, alright, let's alter it. Okay, so we have had dinner at a friend's house, and then we head out, have some drinks, do a bit of roller disco, and then maybe head out to a fun fair, just goof around, do some of the arcades, collect a bunch of tickets, get a prize, which is not worth the amount of money we've put in to do the games at the fun fair at the arcade, take it home. But before we go home, we stop at a 24-hour cafe / diner. I bring this up, and the point that I was beginning to make was when I used to go to a lot of gigs in Manchester, there was a cafe just outside of Piccadilly train station, I think it is. We would go there and we would usually have to wait a while for the next train back, so we would just kind of kill time and have something to eat and just have some coffee and just generally just chat absolute nonsense and just sometimes we'd talk deep actually, but usually it was a lot of nonsense, but it was just always a good time. It was always a great way to the end of a night, you know, especially if we'd just been to a really good gig, kind of talk about the band, talk about the gig, and just talk about music and just all sorts of stuff, you know. It was great. I loved that time in my life. So I think that's how I would end my perfect day. Just a sort of end of the night debriefing and just like a no frills, no fancy decor, just straightforward old school sort of greasy spoon cafe. Yeah, that'd be a pretty perfect way to end a perfect day. Alright, question number 6. What we got? Okay, here we go. What has been your favourite age so far and why? Okay, so I have 2 answers to that actually, 2 periods in my life which have been my favourite so far. First is 17, and that was just because I really kind of came out of my shell a lot more at 17. I was a real sort of geeky introvert as a kid, and you know, as discussed in the vulnerability video, I had like issues with so-called friends at school and a bit of bullying, and it kind of sort of set me back quite a bit. But at 17, I kind of really came to fruition. I was a bit of a late bloomer in a lot of regards, but 17 is when I stopped listening to whatever music was popular, started to develop my own taste in music, started discovering bands and musicians, kind of became a lot more social, a lot more sort of socially functional, as it were. Was going out, doing stuff, kind of just living, being just a happy, free, young person. Making mistakes, sure, of course, who doesn't at that age? But, you know, enjoying the experience, you know, loving being in the moment, loving the changes that were happening, just generally being really happy for the most part, you know, feeling things for the first time, you know, very much so, throwing myself into emotional allowance, as it were, an emotional vulnerability, and the excitement that comes with it, you know, feeling melancholy for the first time, like true, genuine, like teenage melancholy, and looking back at it, it's a wonderful thing, you know. It makes you feel alive and awake and just there, present. Just magic stuff, man. Even with, like, as I say, melancholy or just like frustration or even, you know, dare I say, like the beginning embers of heartbreak, you know, just exciting and just like invigorating, just being there, being present, being in that moment, feeling things for the first time, doing things for the first time, meeting people that, you know, you think you're gonna know forever, you know, making connections that mean so much to you at the time and maybe don't pan out in the future, but in the moment, in that bubble, it means so much. So yeah, 17, yeah, good year. The second answer to that is 29, going on 30, yeah, 30, because that's when I changed my life around. You know, I was technically obese before. I was really miserable. Just as previously mentioned, just didn't care a few years before that. But 29, was given the prognosis of having diabetes type 2, and, you know, had a weird sort of future flash forward at what my life may be. You know, early death, amputation, constant medical care, just further dwindling spirals of depression, and it really put a rocket up my backside, for lack of a better term. It made me make major life changes, health-wise, physically and mental health-wise. It made me reconsider so much. It gave me that appreciation that I didn't have, or it planted the seeds, rather, of that appreciation that I didn't have at the time. It gave me a reason to live when I kind of found that my mortality was at risk of becoming really endangered. It really gave me a reason to live, and it gave me challenges, challenges that I threw myself into and thrived on, and it made me want to do things I'd never done before. It gave me the push to go travelling by myself, and I did in 2015. At the age of 30, I went travelling by myself for the very first time. I went coast to coast across the US, and in doing so, I met my wife, and so, it changed my life for the better in so many ways. So, yeah, that probably outweighs 17, I think, just by a smidge. No, 30 is my favourite age. Just a huge turning point. I got my stuff together, I got my head right, I got my body right, and just major significant changes for the best. So yeah. Okay, question number 7. What we got? Let's see. What does this world need more of? I think I've already answered that a little bit earlier. Compassion. We're living in a very sort of splintered time. Very divisive, very angry, hostile, volatile time that we're living in. I think in the future we'll look back at this period of life, at this part of our history as human beings, and kind of feel a sense of shame at the way that we've been towards each other. I mean, as human beings, we've always kind of been divisive in a lot of ways, but it just seems like right now the climate that we live in is a lot more amplified. It certainly feels like the most hostile time that I have been aware of in my life. And so I think we need more compassion, we need more understanding, we need more patience with each other. We need more understanding that we are a varied species, and that's a good thing, for the most part. Hate speech and bigotry and racism and transphobia, and that's all not a good thing. That's awful. And when I say variety is a good thing, there are certain aspects of variety which are not. I think any sort of slant that somebody takes, any stance that they take, that falls into any sense of purposeful division and separation and just hate mongering is awful, and that is a bad version of variety. That's a bad aspect of variety. But as a whole, I think a variety in outlook and subject viewing of the world is for the most part a good thing, if it doesn't lend itself to, as I say, division or separation or suppression. It's such a wonderful thing. One of the most joyous things that we have as a human being is the ability to interact with other people from different countries and different cultures and different backgrounds and beliefs and walks of life. You know, if it's not used as a measuring stick or is weaponized to demean people or subject them to a standard of second-class citizens, or just as a term of authority or a method of punishment, then the variety of life is an amazing thing. You know, the fact that you can converse and talk to people from a different country with a complete different outlook, different traditions, different history and heritage, and you can learn about that. You can learn about places you've never been. You can learn about people's experiences that are completely different to you, and people whose experiences are similar to you. It's a wonderful thing that we have, and I think that at the moment, as a whole, human beings have lost sight of that. That a lot of attention is going to, I'm just associating with people in my camp, with my tribe. I don't want anything to do with anybody that isn't in my camp or my tribe. And, you know, it's a shame, because we can all learn from other people, and I think we as a whole tend to forget that, or just willfully ignore that, which is probably the more accurate case and the sadder state of affairs. So yeah, I think what this world desperately needs more of right now is compassion and understanding, and wanting to embrace and understand things that are strange and different to us. We need more of that. We need more acceptance and more understanding, or at least the willingness to try and understand or listen. Yeah, I think if you want to boil it down to the most simplistic answer, what the world needs more of right now is to just listen. Listen to ourselves, listen to other people. Okay, question number 8. Let's go a little to the right, a little to the center, somewhere in between. Oh, okay. That's a good question. All of these are good questions, to be fair, but this is particularly good. Question number 8. What do you find beautiful? Oh man, where to start? I'm gonna go with the first thing that comes to me. There's so much in this world that is beautiful. You know, from an aesthetic standpoint, nature as a whole is just magnificent and awe-inspiring with its beauty. But the first thing that jumps to my mind, and it kind of ties to the idea of human connection that we've kind of been talking about with vulnerability, is small moments between people. And in particular, what I'm thinking of, what this sort of provokes images of, is small moments between people at train stations and airports, mainly airports. But yeah, when I would come to visit my fiancée, now wife, and vice versa, when she would come to visit me, and we were doing the whole long distance thing with short period stays, the thing that obviously I hated most was leaving or saying goodbye, was the sort of departure part of the visit. But one thing that always really helped, and was amplified even more as we got closer to me actually moving here full time, was catching other people at the airport who had been waiting for someone, who maybe hadn't seen that person for a long time. And that's the thing, you didn't know the details, you couldn't hear what they were saying to each other, but you didn't need to. It was just reading the physicality of it, of someone embracing someone running up to someone and hugging them and swinging them in their arms. I know it sounds really cliched, like it's part of a rom-com, but you would see that sometimes, and sometimes you would just see really subtle things, like somebody squeezing someone's hand as they were leaving, or just little moments of human interaction that I just, even now, just thinking about makes me smile, because it's so small, so microscopic, and again, you don't need context, you don't need details or dialogue. You just have those moments, those images, that sense of unspoken connection, the sense of joy that is just really apparent and just radiates from people when they meet each other in airports, because they've travelled the distance, they've spanned time and space together to be with that person, and it's something that, you know, from my perspective, I can say for sure, something that they've been thinking about for a long time, that they've been wanting for a long time. And so you would see that, and it was just wonderful. It was just a genuine, beautiful thing, and it never gets old. Even on the opposite end of the spectrum, when you'd see people leaving one another, although it's sad and it's certainly heartbreaking if you're the person having to do the leaving, but seeing just those tender moments too, just that small sort of sliver of connection, it's wonderful, you know. It's, you think about the odds of any of us being here in the first place, and then the odds of people finding each other and developing a connection. It's astronomical, really. When you put it into like scientific terms, it shouldn't happen, but it does, and it's wonderful. It's a beautiful thing to see. So, yeah, there's a lot of beautiful things in this world, but I think just catching just moments, tiny little moments of human connection like that, it's definitely high up, if not top of my list. Okay, question number 9. Give the packet a little bit of a shake. Not that it's going to make much difference, but anyway, question number 9. Oh, what do you miss, man? All sorts. Probably too many things to mention. What do I miss? Family and friends, primarily. You know, one of the hardest things about moving away is saying goodbye to people that I generally really cared about. You know, friends that I've had for years that unfortunately I didn't get to see too often, as it were, but I always had the option. It's funny, makes you realise just how much more of an effort you maybe should have made, considering, you know, the distance wasn't anywhere near as great as it is now. Yeah, that's a huge thing. That's probably the thing that I miss the most. Family and friends. I miss my mum. I used to see her every day, just about. Now I get to see her like 4 to 6 weeks out of the year, if that. I mean, I still see her on video chat, but it's not the same, you know. I miss my grandma, who has been deceased for almost 10 years, I think now. I still miss her very, very much. Yeah, just people more than anything. One thing outside of that I will say that I do miss greatly is the ability to walk places easily or get places by foot. Where I'm at is not very friendly or accessible really for pedestrians. You can get places by foot, but everything is so far spread out. And I miss having things nearby. I miss the sort of localised environment that I used to live in. As strange as it may sound, I miss being able to just go to the corner shop for milk or biscuits. I miss having a pub down the road from me that you could go to easily. I miss just like the accessibility that I used to have. Here, if you want to get anywhere of any interest or note, you have to drive, and it's, you know, it is how it is. It's just how the place is built and designed and has been for a long time. But yeah, I miss the sort of freedom and convenience, I guess. Outside of that, there's a whole litany of other little things that I miss, like little cultural differences and stuff. Sort of little sort of minutiae of the ways of life that are different between here and home in the UK. But first and foremost, I miss people. You know, I miss being able to just drive and see certain people or just hanging out with certain people. Yeah, I miss them more than words can justify, so yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. People, more than anything. What advice would you give to yourself 5 years ago? Damn, that's a good one. So, 5 years ago, I would have been 29, and I would have. Actually, no. 5 years ago, I would have been 29, going on 30. And I would have been getting ready for travelling by myself for the very first time, which was a huge challenge for me and my anxiety and just my general state of mental well-being. I'd come on a lot that year. I was better than I was, a lot better than I was, but I still had a lot of room to grow. I still do, but back then even more so. And I was still very much struggling with anxiety as a whole, but in particular social anxiety. I was still dealing with that. And as excited as I was to be embarking on this grand adventure that I'd made for myself, as excited as I was that I had invested in myself enough to leave the job that I was doing, to quit it without a safety net, and to take the money that I'd earned over almost 2 years. As liberating as that was, I was still very nervous and still very anxious, especially in social situations. So, my advice to myself from 5 years ago would be, don't worry so much and enjoy yourself more. Because as much of an amazing time I had during that period that I travelled throughout that summer, I was still very much battling my social anxiety. I was still kind of nervous to go to dinner by myself. One thing that I really struggled with was going into bars by myself, and the main reason for that really was for the past 6 and a bit years I had been teetotal. I hadn't had a drop of alcohol. The reason being is the year or couple of years before my decision to go teetotal was sort of very much fueled by binge drinking. I didn't have a fully fledged problem, but I did have a problem with self-control and indulgence, and it led to very bad decisions, a very bad place for me personally, and it just was not making things easier. So I decided to stop completely, cold turkey, before things spiraled out of control and got worse. And so for 6, going on 7 years almost, I just stopped drinking completely. But during my time away on my travels, I decided to have a drink, because I figured that, as I've mentioned before, there is a real balance to everything. And where I had been at one extreme of the spectrum earlier in my life, I had now moved to the other, and I felt that having lost a bunch of weight, kind of getting myself to a position where I felt more independent, I felt more free, I felt more confident in my abilities despite still struggling with anxiety. I felt like now is maybe a point in which I can realise that there is a sort of balance to be had, and I trusted myself not to lose control. I trusted myself not to go off the rails, so I had a drink, and wouldn't you know it, I've managed to kind of maintain a balance ever since. But yeah, I had a real problem going into bars. I tried on 2 or 3 occasions and it just never worked. And as much as I enjoyed seeing all the things I did and my travels as a whole, I kind of wish I had enjoyed it more. I kind of wish I had interacted with people a bit more, talked with people a bit more, and just kind of integrated myself into the areas I was staying a little bit more. But instead, I was just kind of enjoying myself, but at the same time also trying to level myself out and not go into full-on panic mode when being in social situations. So yeah, if I was to give some advice to myself from 5 years ago, it would be, don't worry, it's not as bad as you think it is. People aren't looking at you, people don't care, and enjoy yourself more, because this is an amazing experience, which turned out to be a life-changing experience in a lot of ways, but I just kind of wish I had allowed myself to be more social, and just kind of enjoy myself more and sort of integrate myself a bit more, rather than sort of looking at everything from the outside, as it were. Okay, question number 11. Oh, okay. Is there anything you wish you didn't know? Okay, let me think on that for a second. Is there anything you wish you didn't know? No, I don't think so. I mean, I've never had any sort of major secrets revealed to me that have been sort of devastating or traumatizing or derailing in any way, you know. No, I think anything that has kind of been revealed to me or that I found out has maybe not in the moment been of the utmost benefit, or, you know, a sort of positive thing emotionally or mentally at the time, but over time it's sort of petered out and actually been helpful. You know, I have been fortunate enough to not have any sort of major revelations unveiled, which have really shocked me to my core. No. And I think even if I did, and maybe I can say this from a point of privilege, having not had this happen, but, you know, going from my current mindset, I think if something was revealed, yeah, it may leave me reeling for a little bit, but I would try and take what I can from it, as much positive as I can from it. But yeah, no, I've been very fortunate in that sense that, you know, nothing major has ever come out that has sort of sat with me and sort of tormented me. And I mean that with all sincerity. I understand how lucky I am, because I know that there are countless people who have unfortunately had things revealed to them or found stuff out which has just sat with them for decades in some cases. So yeah, I do not envy them, but I do consider myself very lucky that I have not had the misfortune of that happening. So yeah, no, it's a big old no to that one. Okay, question number 12. What do you dream about? A lot of things, apparently. Honestly, in the last, I want to say 2 to 3 months, I don't think I've ever dreamt as much. I never, ever really remember my dreams, though, and they are always so very random. There's seldom, from what I do remember, seldom any sort of correlation from one to the other. But I do dream a lot. I'm aware that I'm dreaming. I remember partial fragments of them. I had a dream a couple of nights ago in which I was protecting a small teddy bear from a lot of violence and chaos, from a gunman running like a muck in a city centre with explosions. It's like a big action film essentially. And I had a small teddy bear strapped to my chest in like one of those sort of baby Bjorn things. And I was convinced that it wasn't a teddy bear, but it was actually a child. So I don't know. Maybe that's my subconscious trying to talk to me about having children. I don't know. Last night I dreamt something about a Norwegian serial killer and trafficking organs on the black market. Yeah, that's all I remember. I have dreams in which I'm talking to people a lot, and I know this because my wife tells me that I've been to dinner parties in my sleep, because she says the way that I talk is kind of formal, as if I'm kind of chewing scenery like an extra, like rhubarb, in in like a classical period drama or something. But she can never hear what I'm saying. It's all just like mumbled and nonsensical. So who knows? But yeah, I dream so much lately, and a lot of the time, although I don't remember specifics, I remember it revolving around people, but people that I don't know. But yet, in the dream, I know them very well. Do you ever have that? Where you're dreaming about somebody you've never met before, somebody you don't recognize, but yet in the dream, you know them extremely well and they mean something to you. I don't know what's happening in there at night, but yeah, I'm dreaming a lot lately. I keep meaning to have a sort of dream journal by the bed to sort of make notes and sort of try and remember when I wake to sort of maybe put something together and sort of get a better understanding of what is happening in there. But yeah, I don't really know. I know, as I say, it revolves around people, and in some cases Norwegian serial killers and teddy bears, but goodness knows what I'm actually dreaming about in terms of like a narrative or sort of thematic properties. Who knows? Okay, 13. What do you value most in a friendship? That's easy. Trust. Because I've had friendships and that trust has been broken. It has only reinforced the importance and value of trust in a friendship. I mean, there are a lot of elements which I value in friendship, sense of humour being one. But trust is number one. Trust is at the top of the list. I think if you can't trust somebody to be yourself with them, or for them to be themselves with you, then you're always going to have a sort of barrier between you. Always. I think you have to be able to give a big part of yourself to somebody to have a real friendship. And I guess that kind of ties into what we've been talking about with vulnerability. You know, it can be a huge, very daunting risk to take, but if you can do it and it pays off, it can be incredible. But yeah, trust, without a doubt, the thing I value most in a friendship. Number 14. Let's see what we've got. What makes you lose track of time? Creative projects. easy, whether it's filming stuff for the channel, editing, writing, whatever it is that I am throwing myself into creatively. It can be a real time vacuum. It can just be a sinkhole for time and everything else. So, good example, the video on vulnerability that I've just done, I got myself so lost in the editing and putting stuff together and preparing stuff for this. I did it all in one sort of morning session, like a big chunk, and I got myself lost in it to the point where I completely forgot to eat until 11:30 in the morning. I got to a point where I had made myself some waffles in the toaster 2.5 hours ago, put them in, came back to start the editing process for the last video, and didn't hear them pop up and completely forgot I'd done it. And it wasn't until I was getting ready to leave the house at about, as I say, 11:30 that I realised I had made myself something to eat, but I had forgotten to eat it. So yeah, anything that I'm working on as a creative project, that's where I completely lose track of time. Just a massive vacuum for time. But there are worse things I could be doing in which I'm losing time, so I can't really complain. Okay, question number 15. 3/4 of the way through. Okay, how do you feel about birthdays? Well, if it's someone else's birthday, I love it. I love doing things for people's birthdays, going out. I love buying gifts. I'm way better, and I know this is such a cliche thing, and everyone says it, but I really am way more comfortable with buying gifts for people than having gifts bought for me. It's like compliments. I don't know what to do. I mean, obviously I'm grateful, and I try to convey that as best I can, but I know it's just kind of awkward when people buy me gifts. So other people's birthdays, I love them. My own birthday, it's not that I hate having a birthday. Everyone likes having a birthday. It's just I hate making a fuss. I have never been one for like really making a big deal about my birthday. It is it's there, and it's nice, and I'm pleased it's there because I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a birthday. If I didn't have my very first birthday, I wouldn't be having any more. But outside of that, I'm really kind of low key. I really am. I have spent a number of birthdays on my own, just hanging out by myself, chilling out, listening to music, playing games. Yeah, just enjoying time off. That's the thing. That's what I want for a birthday, always. And I always try my best to get that day off work because I don't want to be working for my birthday. I'd rather just have a whole day where I'm not doing anything really. It's an agenda-free day where I'm not working on anything. I'm not actually at work. I just have an open day to do whatever. At some point in the day, I would like some ice cream. That's about it. Last year, for my birthday, my wife asked, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to go to lunch and I want to go bowling." And that's it. And I understand, that's like a child's mentality. I basically had a 10-year-old's birthday for my 34th, but I don't care, because that's the thing. I just want to have a nice, relaxed day where I'm just doing things that make me happy. So, maybe this year I will ask to go to a roller disco. Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, I generally do love roller discos. It's a weird thing, I guess, but there's weirder things to like. So, yeah, I love other people's birthdays, and I like mine, but I just like mine very low-key. And it to be free of obligations and free to do whatever I feel like doing, which usually is just really simple things that like a 10-year-old would like doing. Essentially, I am just a perpetual 10-year-old. I get older each year, but mentally, on my birthday, I stay 10, which, I'm quite happy if that's the case. I can live with that. Okay, question number 16. What we got? Oh man, what do you want to do before you die? Whew, that is deep. What do you want to do before you die? A lot of things, actually. I want to go to Tokyo. I want to see all kinds of different parts of Japan, actually. I want to see Osaka. I want to see Kyoto. Japan is high on my bucket list of just life things to do. I'd also like to go to Sweden and Iceland. I'd like to go back to Paris, actually, as an adult and see it through different eyes. I've been twice, actually, but as a kid. Once was a trip to Euro Disney, once was on a school trip. So, as an adult, I'd love to go back to Paris. What else do I want to do before I die? I don't know, actually. A lot of things, really. Obviously, want to see the thing that I'm writing at the minute. I'd like to see that get published. I'd like that to take off, with it being my adult dream and all. And just, I don't know, to be happy. You know, I spent so many years being unhappy and miserable that I just want to be happy. I want to do things that make me happy. I want to go to South by Southwest, which is something that I could do at some point, now that I live in the same country that it takes place in. I want to see a bear in real life, you know, from a safe distance, obviously, but you know, I've always just loved bears. There's just something really majestic about bears, something just really powerful and graceful and just something incredible. I'd love to see a bear in the flesh, in real life. Ultimately, I'd like to travel more and just see more of the world, you know. My scope has been very limited. I've been places when I was younger, and I went travelling a little bit by myself, as previously mentioned, but there's just so much out there that I want to see, that I want to experience. There's just so much. I just want to see as much as I can. I want to do a bunch of stuff that I've never done before, that I wouldn't even think of doing, that I can't even think of doing right now. Just, you know, I want to say yes more. I think that's what I want to do, ultimately. Before I die, say yes more, because, you know, as I said, for the longest time I just said no to everything, and it made me miserable. So, say yes more, be happy, see things, do things. That's pretty much it, really. Okay, 17. Oh, okay, so this is kind of like the flipped version of a previous question. What do you wish you knew? Oh man, that is tough. What do I wish I knew? I think the biggest thing that I wish I knew, like knew for sure, without any doubt, is what happens to us when we die. Is there an afterlife? Is there more to this? Is there reincarnation? Do we come back? Or is that it? But then again, I think if we knew that, or if I knew that, it makes me wonder, how would that impact my life that I'm living now? Would it change things? It probably would, I think. You know. And probably not for the better. What do you wish you knew? That is actually a really good question. There are things in the past where I would have liked to have known stuff. I kind of would have liked to have known maybe why my father was so very hands-off with me as a kid. Why he basically just disregarded me. But that has sort of settled. Any sort of sort of ember of interest in that has gone. You know, I have really moved on from that. It was something that used to bother me and affect me a lot when I was younger, I think. I always used to feel like I wasn't good enough, you know, and that's why. And then I got to a point where I questioned if that was the case or if there was something else. And, you know, that is back then something that I wish I'd known. But then, now, it really doesn't bother me because I don't need to know. I don't need to know that. It serves me no purpose. I'm past that. I don't let that take any agency over me anymore. What do you wish you knew? I honestly don't think I have an answer for that. Because there is nothing really that just itches at me that I need to know, that I need a definitive answer for. Because I think life is richer when you don't have definitive answers. For the most part, there are obviously things in life, in the sort of more micro aspects of our life, of personal, sort of individual, relevant aspects of our individual lives, that we do want to know things, you know, particularly about other people, people that we care about. We like to know where we stand with people, where we're heading, etc. But I think knowledge can be dangerous too. You know, I could say that I wish I knew where I was going to be in a year's time, because, you know, sometimes that concerns me, you know, whether or not I'm going to be at a place where I am not quite as unadjusted as I am, because I am still adjusting to being here, and I do have sort of waves where I struggle a little bit, and I do wonder if that's going to change, but then again I don't know if I would want to know. I think sometimes if you know, that it can alter your behaviour, you know. I think we're meant to find things out when we find them out, or if we find them out. So, yeah, I honestly don't think I have an answer for that. Okay, question 18. What is the best gift that someone can give you? Time. Hands down. Time is something that, again, I used to take completely for granted, and I have wasted so much of it in my earlier years. At a certain point in my life, I just didn't even think or care about time. It was just there and then gone. Now it means so much more. I think in the last 5 years, I've really come to realise that time is the most valuable commodity a person can have. And time is the most precious thing someone can give you. You know, whether it's time to listen to you, time to just hang out, time to just be with you. It's the best thing anyone can give you. You know, people have not given me time. People have deprived me of time. People have just not had any interest in giving me any time in the past. And on the flip side, people have been more than generous with time. People have given me so much of their time, and it really makes you value somebody so much if they're willing to give you their time. So yeah, what is the best gift that someone can give you? Hands down, without any question, time. Alright guys, the penultimate question. What's it gonna be? What is your next great adventure? I'm kind of in it at the minute. I'm in the midst of it right now. We are about to move house, so I guess technically that's the next stage of it, but this is my next great adventure. You know, I've been here just over a year, and at times it's been a struggle, at times it's been an uphill battle, waiting for paperwork to clear, waiting for things to happen. You know, the way I put it is that I kind of reset my life back to factory settings in a lot of ways. I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have the ability to work for the longest period of time. I really kind of felt stripped of my independence, and I am gradually getting that back, along with my identity. Because one thing I found that when you move to a new country and you are coming in with a blank slate, it can be very liberating in a lot of ways, but it can also be kind of debilitating too. It kind of can take your independence away from you, especially when you're having to rely on other people a lot more than you're used to, and you are as stubborn as the day is long. It's not the best combination, but it is something that I've grown into and continue to do so with each passing day. So yeah, my next great adventure is just life for the next year. You know, moving into a new house, kind of looking at starting a few things in my life, getting a job that is satisfactory and can sort of lead into something more than what I have now. Possibly starting a family, you know, a lot of things on the potential horizon, and just sort of integrating more, you know, taking the friendships that I've begun to develop and strengthening them, while also sort of maintaining the friendships I still have, which is still important to me, very important to me to be doing that too. And yeah, just moving forward right now and growing into this new life that I have. That's my next great adventure. Okay guys, last question, and we are going to take it straight from the center. Okay, what life lesson do you wish everyone was taught in school? So, the thing that's coming to mind straight away is that failure is inevitable, and you need to embrace it to truly find success. I think that is, with all sincerity, probably the most valuable life lesson that I can think of, that I think everyone should be taught that in school. Because life is hard, life is tough, life can be a genuine struggle. But it is that struggle which makes you appreciate the good things even more. I think if you find success without having to falter or fail or fight, then you never really appreciate it. You never really have a grasp of what it means. Whereas if you have to fight tooth and claw, if you have to push a boulder up a steep hill, if you have to just work at something, and if you fail and you pick yourself up and you falter and you pick yourself up and you keep going, and then you finally get to where you're going, you appreciate it so much more because you've had to work for it, because it hasn't come easy, because you have done the groundwork and you have strengthened yourself on every step forward, every step closer. You've got stronger and you've gained more of an appreciation for what it is that you're actually working for. So I think that, yeah, if there was one life lesson that everyone should be taught in school, it is that failure is inevitable, but you need to embrace it to find success. When you can embrace failure, your downfalls, your mistakes, your false starts, when you can embrace all of these things, that's what I think makes somebody successful. It gives them the will, it gives them the drive, the determination to push forward. You know, I think for people who are just handed success, it makes them complacent, it makes them completely unappreciative of what they have. It doesn't make them work hard. It doesn't make them believe in something bigger than themselves. It doesn't make them want more in the most natural and integral way. It maybe makes them want more in a greedy fashion, but it doesn't make them want more for the right reasons. Whereas I think failure does. It makes you want to push forward, to continue, to keep fighting for something better. And I think that is something that has become very integral to who I am now. Because I've had to fight for a bunch of stuff, and I still have to fight for things. And in some regards I have it easier than other people, I know that, and I never lose sight of that, but at the same time I never lose sight of the fact that I've had to fight for things as well. And it's through having to fight for those things that's made me successful. And not just in the sense of accomplishing things or achieving things, but in terms of the success that comes with personal growth, from moving forward from where I was as a person to who I am now, to who I will hopefully be in the future further down the line. You know, it's that fight, it's that struggle, it's that sort of embracing of failure, of all the mistakes I've made, of the wrong turns, the bad decisions, the things that weren't necessarily my fault but hindered me along the way. It is very much, for me, in all aspects of success, absolutely necessary to fail. Because if we don't fail, we don't learn. And if we don't learn, we don't grow. And if we don't grow, we stay stagnant, and we rot, and we just wither away. Alright, so there you go, guys. 20 big talk questions. Hopefully you've enjoyed those. Hopefully you've taken something from them. Hopefully you've got to know me a little bit better. And hopefully it's made you think about vulnerability and maybe opening yourself up to it a little bit more if you don't already. I don't know. Hopefully you've got something from it at least. Maybe even if it's just a good night's sleep. I'm more than alright with that. There are still plenty of questions left in the big talk box. So if you guys want to see more of this in the future at some point, if you're game for another round, then let me know, because I would be more than happy to do some more big talk questions at some point in the future. Other than that though, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you managed to take something from it. And other than that, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, then please do feel free to like, share and subscribe. I am wanting to get to 1,000. That is the one goal that I have for this channel, I guess, for the time being. It would be pretty awesome if we could get there at some point, and you guys can make that happen. So if you have enjoyed this, do like, do subscribe if you haven't already, and if you know someone that might like this as well, then why not send them a link. Other than that, thank you once again, guys. As always, you are awesome, and yeah, I will see you all very shortly.